before he became one of Spider-Man's greatest enemies, before the world knew the name Dr. Octopus, there was simply Otto Octavius, a man of unmatched intellect, yet deeply scarred by his own insecurities and the shadows of his past. Gunther Octavius was born to working-class parents in Schenectady, New York. His father, a strict and abusive man, demanded physical toughness from his son, constantly berating Otto for being more interested in books and science than sports or manual labor. His mother, in contrast, showered him with affection, but pushed him into a different kind of pressure, expecting him to be a gentleman, a refined man who would never fall short of her ideals. These conflicting forces shaped Otto into a brilliant, yet fragile young boy, torn between fear of failure and the desperate desire to prove himself worthy. As a child, Otto sought solace in the only place where he truly felt powerful: knowledge. Science became his sanctuary. He excelled in school, mastering physics, engineering, and nuclear science with ease. Yet, his classmates often mocked him for his awkward demeanor and round glasses, branding him an outcast. Otto buried himself even further into his studies, shutting out the world and building walls around his heart. It was in his teenage years that Otto's genius began to manifest fully. He earned scholarships, graduated with honors, and soon became one of the most promising minds in nuclear physics. At the university, he designed what would later define him, a mechanical harness, equipped with 4 powerful, tentacle-like appendages. These mechanical arms were meant to help him handle hazardous materials from a safe distance. To Otto, they were not just tools, they were extensions of his mind, his ambition, his will to control the uncontrollable. But genius can be a double-edged sword. Otto's colleagues admired his brilliance, but also resented his arrogance. He demanded perfection, refused criticism, and grew increasingly isolated. Though he was respected as a scientist, he had few true friends. And when it came to love, his domineering mother sabotaged his relationships, insisting that no woman was good enough for her son. The combination of maternal control and personal pride left Otto with unhealed wounds that festered beneath the surface. Then came the day that changed everything. While demonstrating his mechanical arms during a high-stakes experiment involving radiation, disaster struck. A catastrophic explosion bathed Otto in radiation and fused the mechanical harness to his body. But that was only the beginning. The accident did something far stranger. The interface between Otto's brain and the mechanical arms expanded, creating a permanent neural link. The arms became not just tools, but a part of him, for unyielding, powerful extensions that obeyed his every thought. The press gave him a new name, Dr. Octopus. What was meant to be a marvel of science became a symbol of terror. At first, Otto struggled to control both the arms and the emotions boiling inside him. But soon, he found himself relishing the power. The shy, mocked boy was gone. In his place stood a man who no longer needed acceptance, no longer needed validation. He would demand it, through fear if necessary. And so, Otto Octavius embraced his new persona, shedding the fragile identity of the boy who once longed to be loved. With his genius intellect, unmatched mechanical might, and newfound sense of superiority, he stepped into a dark destiny. The age of Dr. Octopus had begun. Power does not corrupt instantly. It creeps, like a shadow, until one day the man who once sought to enlighten the world finds himself cloaked in darkness. For Otto Octavius, the transformation into Dr. Octopus was not a moment of destiny written in the stars. It was a gradual descent, a tragic unraveling of ambition, intellect, and hubris. When the metal arms fused permanently to his body, Otto was at first terrified. The pain was unbearable, the realization unthinkable. The harness, designed as a tool of creation, had become a part of him. Doctors tried to remove it, but the neural interface had already bound itself to his spine. The appendages were no longer just tools, they were extensions of his very being, obeying his thoughts with inhuman precision and strength. Otto had become something new, something more than a man, and perhaps less than human. As days turned, in 2 weeks, the paranoia set in. Once a respected scientist, Otto found himself an outcast. His reputation crumbled under the weight of scandal. Colleagues distanced themselves, universities revoked his grants, and the scientific community whispered his name with disdain. The world he had devoted his life to building cast him aside, and Otto Octavius, humiliated and broken, decided that if the world could not respect him, it would fear him. Dr. Octopus was born. The tentacles, now a permanent part of his identity, gave him abilities that bordered on the godlike. With their immense strength, he could crush steel like paper. With their speed, he could strike faster than any human could react. And with their precision, he could perform tasks impossible even for the most skilled surgeon or craftsman. Otto realized he was no longer bound by the limitations of man. He was evolution's next step, a new kind of predator in a world of weaklings. But beneath the armor of superiority, his soul burned with resentment. Every plan, every heist, every confrontation was fueled by the same desire to prove to the world that Dr. Octopus was not a failure. He would make humanity recognize his brilliance, even if it meant tearing the world apart. It was inevitable that his path would cross with Spider-Man. The first encounter between the Wallcrawler and Dr. Octopus was nothing short of legendary. Otto, armed with his mechanical arms and tactical genius, was unlike any foe Spider-Man had ever faced. Where others relied on brute strength or simple cunning, Octavius combined intellect with overwhelming force. His tentacles could block Spider-Man's webbing, counter his agility, and strike with devastating power. For the first time, Peter Parker was truly outmatched. The young hero who had fought criminals, gangsters, and even superpowered adversaries found himself utterly defeated by the cold, calculating might of Dr. Octopus. That first victory filled Otto with a dangerous sense of invincibility. He had beaten Spider-Man, the so-called protector of New York, and in doing so, proved to himself that he was destined for greatness. Yet, fate has a cruel way of humbling even the proudest of men. When Spider-Man returned, learning from his mistakes, the tables turned. Their battles became a chess match between Otto's intellect and Peter's wit. Time and time again, the two clashed in brutal confrontations across the city, atop skyscrapers, in laboratories, in dark alleys where metal clashed against webbing. Each fight left scars, both physical and emotional. For Peter, Otto became one of his most dangerous and relentless enemies. For Otto, Spider-Man became the embodiment of everything he hated: youth, resilience, and the ability to inspire others despite being underestimated. Dr. Octopus' ambitions grew larger with each defeat. No longer content with small victories, he sought to claim dominion over entire cities, even the world itself. He formed alliances with other villains, most notably founding the Sinister Six, a team designed for one purpose alone: to destroy Spider-Man. With his charisma, intellect, and authority, Otto became the natural leader of the group. For the first time, villains who had fought alone united under his command, proving his superiority in the criminal underworld. But the deeper Otto sank into villainy, the more fractured his humanity became. He still longed for recognition, for respect, for the validation he had been denied. Every scheme, every machine of destruction, every elaborate plot was not just an attack on Spider-Man, it was a desperate cry to the world: see me, acknowledge me, fear me. Yet, for all his power and brilliance, there remained a fragile core within Otto Octavius. The man who had once dreamed of solving the mysteries of the universe was still there, buried beneath the layers of arrogance and rage. And, in his rarest, quietest moments, he questioned himself. Was he truly a visionary, or just another madman consumed by his own demons? The truth, perhaps, was both. As Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus continued their eternal struggle, Otto's role in the Marvel Universe expanded far beyond that of a simple villain. He became a symbol of what happens when brilliance is poisoned by obsession, when genius is devoured by pride. His tentacles were not just weapons, they were chains, binding him forever to the path he had chosen. The story of Dr. Octopus was no longer just about revenge against Spider-Man. It was about the tragic fall of a man who could have changed the world for the better, but instead chose to bend it to his will. And though he had become one of the most feared villains in history, Otto Octavius knew in his heart that the war was far from over. For as long as Spider-Man lived, Dr. Octopus would never stop fighting. The man and the monster had become inseparable, and the world would tremble in the shadow of his arms. Beneath the bustling streets of New York, while the city above danced to its usual rhythm of chaos and survival, Otto Octavius was weaving a different kind of symphony. In the shadows, he had become more than a man with metal arms. He had become a strategist, a mastermind, an architect of crime who would soon shake the foundations of heroism itself. This was not Otto the outcast, nor Octavius the failed scientist. This was Dr. Octopus, the master planner, but it began with the realization that brute force alone would never be enough. Though his mechanical tentacles gave him strength, speed, and reach beyond any normal man, Otto was no fool. He knew Spider-Man was agile, cunning, and relentless. To truly defeat the Wallcrawler, to break him both physically and spiritually, Octavius needed more than power, he needed control. And so, Otto built his empire not in the light of day, but in the dim glow of underground lairs, abandoned subway tunnels, forgotten warehouses, hidden laboratories. Each became a piece of his sprawling domain. With his genius, he recruited thugs, scientists, and mercenaries, not merely as underlings, but as tools in his grand design. Every heist, every theft, every movement of his organization was calculated like pieces on a chessboard. The world would come to know him as the master planner, a criminal overlord whose reach stretched far beyond what anyone could see. Banks trembled, laboratories were stripped of their secrets, and Spider-Man, ever vigilant, found himself constantly on the back foot, chasing shadows while Octavius pulled the strings. But power, to Otto, was not merely about wealth or influence. It was about proving superiority. Deep down, the insecure, humiliated man he once was still lingered. Every victory against Spider-Man, every successful scheme, was a way to silence the voices of mockery that haunted him from his youth. He was no longer Otto Octavius, the bullied child or the disrespected scientist. He was destiny itself, wrapped in steel. The conflict with Spider-Man reached one of its most harrowing climaxes during this era. In a daring heist, Octavius stole rare isotopes, a theft that culminated in one of the most iconic confrontations in Marvel history. Trapped beneath tons of machinery, Spider-Man faced what seemed like certain death, and it was Octavius's hand that had orchestrated this doom. For Otto, it was proof of his genius that even the seemingly unstoppable Spider-Man could be brought to his knees under the weight of his intellect. Yet fate, cruel as ever, twisted the outcome. Spider-Man, fueled by sheer willpower and the memory of his Uncle Ben, rose from beneath the crushing debris. He overcame what Octavius believed to be his ultimate victory, turning it into one of Spider-Man's greatest triumphs. That single moment shattered Otto's illusion of total control. The Wallcrawler was not merely an obstacle, he was a force of resilience that no calculation could fully contain. But Otto did not crumble. Defeat only stoked the fires of his obsession. If Spider-Man could rise against the impossible, then Octavius would simply redefine the impossible. Again and again, he reinvented himself, refining his machines, his methods, his plans. He formed alliances with other villains, from the Sinister Six to more temporary pacts. Each collaboration a new step in his relentless war against the hero who refused to yield. The public began to see Dr. Octopus not merely as a mad scientist with claws of steel, but as one of Spider-Man's deadliest enemies, someone whose intellect made him as dangerous as his strength. Governments, heroes, and even rival criminals grew wary of the man with 4 mechanical arms, for Otto's vision extended beyond personal vendettas. He dreamed of shaping the world itself under his command, and in quiet moments, deep in the recesses of his mind, he wondered, was he meant to be a destroyer, or something more? The scars of his past whispered doubt, but the power of his arm screamed dominance. Otto Octavius stood at a crossroads, forever torn between the fragile human he once was and the mechanical monster he had become. The Master Planner era defined him. It was not merely about crime or conflict, it was about identity, legacy, and the struggle for control in a world that had always belittled him. For Otto, every move, every crime, every clash with Spider-Man was part of a larger story, a battle not just for power, but for recognition. Dr. Octopus had transcended the lab accident that created him. He was no longer a mistake of science. He was a declaration of war on mediocrity, weakness, and the heroes who thought themselves above men like him. And yet, destiny had far darker plans in store. For Otto Octavius's journey was not one of fleeting schemes, but of transformation that would soon push him beyond even his own imagination. The city burns with the chaos he leaves behind. The shadow of his presence lingers, not just in the shattered glass of skyscrapers or the broken bridges over the Hudson, but in the very soul of Spider-Man. Otto Octavius was never content with mere villainy. He craved legacy, power, yes, but also the immortal mark of a man who reshaped the world in his own image. After countless battles, Otto had tasted victory, and he had suffered crushing defeat. But what defined him was neither triumph nor failure. It was persistence, a relentless, unyielding hunger to prove that he was more than just a broken man fused to monstrous machinery. His mind, brilliant and corrupted, sought not only destruction, but recognition. The world would remember Dr. Octopus not as a petty criminal or a tragic scientist, but as a force of inevitability. He was chaos wrapped in genius, destruction wrapped in intellect. Even as his plans unraveled time after time, Otto's influence reached deeper than anyone could imagine. He created technologies that others would steal. He inspired fear that rivaled even the darkest of Spider-Man's foes. He commanded respect, however twisted, from the underworld of New York. And to those who truly understood him, he was a man who could have saved the world had his pride not poisoned his soul. But his greatest and most dangerous moment came when he sought something no villain had dared before. Otto did not merely want to kill Spider-Man, he wanted to become him. Through cunning, science, and sheer will, Octavius achieved the unthinkable. In a cruel twist of fate, he took over Peter Parker's very body, erasing the line between hero and villain. In that moment, Dr. Octopus claimed victory unlike any other. He was no longer Otto Octavius, he was Spider-Man, the superior Spider-Man, and for a time the world believed him. Otto fought crime, he protected the city, but his methods were ruthless, his justice merciless, his morality tainted. Where Peter saw hope, Otto saw weakness. Where Peter offered compassion, Otto delivered domination. He was efficiency incarnate, the cold hand of order masquerading as a hero. Yet deep within Peter's spirit, the true Spider-Man endured, whispering, resisting, waiting for the moment to reclaim what was. His Otto's time as the superior Spider-Man was not simply another chapter of villainy. It was proof of his genius and his tragedy. He wanted to be better, to surpass Peter in every way, to prove that his way was the right one. And in fleeting moments, perhaps, he did. But the arrogance that had defined him from the very beginning remained his undoing. The spirit of Spider-Man rose again, reclaiming his destiny, and Otto, defeated yet again, was forced to confront the truth. He could never truly be the hero he thought he was destined to become. But Dr. Octopus never disappears. Like the tide, he returns, sometimes broken, sometimes reborn, sometimes more dangerous than ever. He forms alliances, builds new machines, unleashes new nightmares upon the world. His arms, those twisted metal tentacles, are more than weapons, they are symbols. Symbols of his refusal to be forgotten. Symbols of his defiance against fate. Symbols of his eternal war with the one man who will forever define him, Spider-Man. The story of Otto Octavius is not one of redemption, nor of simple villainy. It is the story of a man cursed by his brilliance, shackled by his pride, and consumed by his need to prove his superiority. He could have been one of the greatest minds of his generation. He could have healed the world. Instead, he sought to control it. His genius gave him power, but his arrogance sealed his doom. And yet, as long as Spider-Man swings across the skyline, the shadow of Dr. Octopus will always follow. Their rivalry is eternal, their conflict woven into the very fabric of destiny. Heroes inspire villains, villains define heroes, and Otto Octavius Dr. Octopus remains one of the most dangerous minds to ever walk the earth. His legacy is not just in battles lost or schemes undone. His legacy is in the truth he forces upon the world. That brilliance can be as destructive as it is enlightening. That ambition can devour even the brightest soul. And that sometimes the most dangerous monsters are not born in the dark, they are made in the light of human genius. Dr. Octopus is more than a man. He is more than a villain. He is the haunting echo of what happens when the mind, unshackled by morality, is left to forge its own path. And though his tentacles may one day break, though his schemes may one day crumble, Otto Octavius will never stop fighting. For in his mind, he was never wrong. And in his heart, if there was ever one left, Dr. Octopus will always believe he was destined not to be feared, not to be hated, but to be remembered.